Good evening, it's Melanie Moore here, and welcome to a new episode of Big Vision TV. Now, I've had a few weeks break. There's been a lot going on in the world this year, this past 3 months, this past 2 weeks. It seems like every week just brings a new shift, new things are happening, and I'm a human being. I need to take some time out to process what's going on. And this past couple of weeks have been especially difficult for a lot of us, empaths and, spiritual people who are kind of having to go within to kind of look for answers, to really think about, our place in the world, how we can show up and help our clients, and also, getting the message right. And for me, I've had to take a lot of time out, to go within, to reflect, to meditate, and to ask myself the question, how can I be of service? How can I help? Because I shared a blog post yesterday. Some of you may have seen it. I'll share a link to it afterwards. That I honestly was feeling a little bit lost as to how I could contribute to the conversation around race and equality and everything that's been going on, particularly as we are still in the midst of the COVID crisis, that there just seems to be so much happening that I literally had to meditate and ask myself the question, how can I be of service? So I shared in the blog that I kind of got inspired with this whole having a bigger vision for humanity, for helping the world heal not just the differences with race, but with many other differences. Because I'm going to be talking about this with my guest in a minute, that there are so many divisions right now in the world. There's so much anger, so much fear. Even the COVID crisis has really divided people. Do we send our children back to school? Divisions amongst family members, and I feel that the whole situation with the race thing that's happening in the world right now is causing even more division. So anyway, I feel like I'm garbling a little bit here, so it makes more sense in my blog. So without further ado, I'm really delighted to bring my guest, Yvonne J Douglas. So let me just bring her up here on the screen. Hi Yvonne, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Hello. Hi Mel, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you. So I first met Yvonne last year when we were both at the Magical Creators live event, and I immediately there was something about this woman that I loved her presence and her energy, and I didn't really spend an awful lot of time with you, and I still, I know that in the future I do want to spend, more time getting to know you. And just a couple of weeks ago, we did the virtual Magical Creators live event where Yvonne was a fellow speaker with me. Loved her session, love her energy, love what she's about, and it's funny, I reached out to Yvonne last week to invite her to be a guest on my show after, everything that's happening in the world surrounding the tragedy of George Floyd's murder in the United States, that, I wanted to bring a perspective from a woman of colour, but also somebody whose energy I know and I love, with a spiritual aspect as well. So yeah, could I just hand over to you, Yvonne, quickly, just introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do, and then we can just get into this conversation.
Get down
to it.
Okay, so as you said, I'm Yvonne J Douglas. I'm otherwise known as the Starseed Alkhemist, and I am a powerful psychic and shamanic practitioner, and I use all of my innate skills, my abilities to help people, especially sensitive souls, to get more purpose, clarity, and more, so that they can create more magic in their lives and really tap into who they truly are, and be unapologetic in who they are. We know that this world can feel quite harsh for sensitive souls. So I help them to really embrace who they are so that they can step out in confidence, actually. Yeah. So that's what I do. And you know, in amongst all of that, I do lots of things like soul retrievals, regression, and ancestral healing, and spiritual guidance, and bog standard counselling. So all of that is part of what I do.
Yeah, fabulous. I love it all. So I think a lot of kind of what your work does, it, you know, particularly when we talk about things like ancestral healing and especially what's going on in the world right now, because, you know, what happened 2 weeks ago in America, yes, it was a tragedy, but it's not exactly new, is it? It's, you know, it's almost like another repeating cycle. But this time, it's been very different. You know, it seems like everyone has woken up and taken notice now that this isn't another event that can, you know, just be forgotten again in a few weeks' time. There's been a big, and I think perhaps it's because we're still in this kind of COVID pandemic quarantine situation in the world, that this to happen during it as well has, I don't know, maybe that's got something to do with it. Maybe this is all part of a bigger shift. What are your thoughts on that, Yvonne?
Yes, as you said, it's nothing new whatsoever. This is something that happens very regularly, not just in America.
No.
Yes, they don't have guns here, but you know, lots of young black men have been killed, and women have been killed at the hands of the police. So it's very common, and each time it happens, it does something to the black community. It sends us into more trauma, really, because I mentioned ancestral healing, and you know, my take on you know, life and souls and humanity is that we carry the DNA of our ancestors.
Yeah.
We reincarnate from our ancestors. So if our ancestors have gone through lots of trauma and we've not done much healing ourselves in this lifetime, we then carry their traumas. So there's transgenerational trauma. So when this sort of stuff happens, it does trigger black people, and it's as if their soul starts to remember all the traumas that they've been through in past lifetimes, and hence why this uproar has really kind of happened. I do feel that it's happened at this time now because we are going through a major planetary shift. We're going into a new paradigm, the age of Aquarius. So the global cleansing. So for it to happen at this time is good, because it has woken people up and it's not just, you know, it's opened up white people as well to they're sort of more open to seeing what's going on. I mean, I as a psychic, I'm not kind of focusing too much on George Floyd. Something tells me that there's still some sort of something going on in the background, which I won't go into in this interview. However, I feel it's really important that as a collective, yes, this stuff needs to be looked at and dealt with and healed, but we also must remember not to get too distracted, because this whole pandemic, everything, there's so much going on that a lot of it is taking us away from staying focused on our ascension.
Yeah.
So I said quite a lot in that, didn't I? Sorry.
Yeah. So I totally get what you're saying. You know, everything makes perfect sense to me, but I'd love to break that down a little bit for people who are watching this thinking, huh? What's she going on about? But particularly, you know, if we kind of do the ancestral healing bit slightly, now this is something I've been talking about with my community, my audience for a long time now, that I break it down like this. So the egg that made you started off life in your mother's ovaries when she was in utero in your grandmother. So this is just a really simple way to explain ancestral stuff, going back 3 generations, or rather, no, 2 generations, your grandmother. Now, how I also explain this is that, you know, any trauma that perhaps your grandmother experienced, and, you know, I've shared some stuff with my community, you know, personal stuff, I don't want to go into it too much, but things that my grandmother lived through, some traumatic things. The egg that made me was involved in the situation at the time. So the trauma has kind of affected me. And that's just going back 2 generations. Now, you know, to make this even more, you know, easy to understand, is that if we just look at some of our facial characteristics, you know, you can look at a photograph of your grandmother and think, oh God, yeah, I've got the same lips as my grandmother. And I see that in photographs. And you know, there've been studies shown in rats, and, you know, have you heard the thing about the cherry blossom and the rats, Yvonne? Where rats were kind of given the smell of cherry blossom, but then they were electrocuted, and but then 3 generations down the line, just the smell of the cherry blossom instilled this kind of trauma in the rats, even though they weren't electrocuted at the same time. So this has been scientifically proven in animals. We can see how it happens in us as human beings, you know, just that short explanation with me and my grandmother. But this goes back, you know, when we talk about major trauma, you know, this, how many generations does it go back? Because you're the expert, and this is my limited knowledge of it, but I want to hand back over to you, the expert. How many generations back does trauma go?
To my knowledge, it goes back to about 7 generations.
Yeah.
I myself went through an ancestral healing some years ago by a shaman, and funnily enough, it was a white shaman that did it as well. And he saw 7 generations back, I was on a slave boat, and I was so distraught with seeing my people being thrown overboard and dying and drowning. And he done some healing around that. And when I came out of the healing process, he said to me, "You will never be scared of a white person ever again."
Wow.
And from that healing, I kid you not, I felt a big shift around myself and white people. That things that I've noticed in the past before that healing was, I would kind of automatically or unconsciously move out of the way for white people whilst I'm walking down the road. If you're walking towards one another, that was just an unconscious thing that I did, and I noticed that I stopped doing that. And I also noticed a lot of black people doing that now. They don't realize they're doing it. And I've noticed that sometimes they may give up their seat on the train or the tube for somebody who doesn't actually need the seat more than they do. It's bizarre. If you're aware of it and you can see it. If you're not aware of it, you don't see it, and you're very oblivious to it. So this is how powerful the ancestral healing can be, and how much it's really needed, because so many people are carrying the traumas of their past. And in the same way that black people are carrying the victim mentality of their past history, white people are also carrying their the DNA of their ancestors, in that they felt superior, they thought they were superior, but actually that superiority complex was based in a lot of fear and ignorance. So they're carrying all that around, and they're probably some of you are probably carrying a lot of shame around as well, and guilt. And because those are such heavy energies, some people probably don't even want to look at it. They don't want to see that that they're carrying those things. So they just rather go around with blinkers and pretend it's not happening.
But obviously, a lot of white people, not just white people, but everyone is being forced to take a broader look at this subject now. You know, even, you know, the term, you know, not, you know, a lot of us can say, you know, I'm not racist. You know, I've got lots of black friends, and my children have got black friends, and whatever. I'm not racist, but that isn't enough,
No.
quite frankly. And this is I think the great thing that's happening at the moment, that there are conversations happening. You know, I'm having conversations with my children that, you know, that there's kind of a zero tolerance attitude now. Even if you kind of like overhear conversations, you know, whatever, there's lots of changes happening now, which is a great thing. So, what are your thoughts on that, Yvonne?
Yes, I mean, I'm so glad that people are having these conversations now. I think it's necessary. You know, in the past, black people have held back from speaking their truth and showing a lot of their pain because it's been not been welcomed. There's a book that's been written, Why I No Longer Talk to White People About Race. And that would be a very good book for white people to kind of read and educate themselves on. And sometimes it's so frustrating trying to talk to white people about our lived experience, because they don't want to hear, and then they may get upset, and we call this thing white fragility, and whereby then their feelings are more important than actually how we have been feeling ever since we were born, you know, born into this system of white supremacy and racism. And so I feel it's really important to have these conversations, and I feel it's also important that white people do listen without, and even if you feel shame, even if you feel guilt, even if you feel like you want to get on the defensive, don't. Just don't, because a lot of black people are willing to have the conversation, but if the white person doesn't want to hear or starts defending, they're probably going to get blocked and deleted. Because it's been years, it's been a lifetime of trying to, you know, of just putting up with it. And and the problem with racism is that it affects us on such a deep level, and it just affects us so deeply. So yes, my view is have the conversations, be very open, but also be very open about how we heal and how we move forward. And be educated, really educate yourself. There's so many things that you can, white people can do to educate themselves and to think about, okay, as you said, not being racist is not enough. You know, I don't see the main group of white people who aren't racist. They're probably the problem, because they may not be racist, but they benefit from white privilege, and in that they are complicit, and they don't say anything. They don't notice anything that's happening. And it's interesting now that everyone is kind of noticing it, whereas before, all these things, as you said, these things have been happening for centuries. Yeah.
So, you know, one of the things that, you know, when I reached out to you is, yes, I want to have the conversation, you know, so that we can all be more educated, but also to look at kind of solutions as well, you know, what we can do next and how we can, you know, heal together collectively. I think, you know, this is my Mel, the eternal optimist, look at the world through rose-tinted glasses, and how can we make this world a better place? Because that's just, you know, that's what I want for humanity. That's what I want for all of us. But, you know, and obviously you as a spiritual woman, as a psychic, as a shaman, actually, let's go into that in a minute, you know, the shamanic side of things. And think, Yvonne has also agreed to do a meditation for us at the end of this. So do hang around, and we're going to be doing a lovely meditation at the end. But yeah, sorry, just rewind slightly. What's next, Yvonne?
What's next? Ooh.
Big question, you know.
What is next? So as I mentioned, educate yourselves and understand or overstand.
Do you have any resources or people? Because there's been lots of books, lots of things mentioned across social media recently. Are there any particular people or books that you particularly recommend?
I would recommend Why I No Longer Talk to White People About Race.
Okay.
I would recommend The ISIS Papers by Frances Cresswell Sling.
Okay.
I would recommend The Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome by Joy DeGroy. I can't remember her surname, but it's The Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome.
Great title, yeah.
Yes. Gosh. Some of the books by Marcus Garvey. The Miseducation of the Negro. But I've got quite a few on my bookshelf. But yeah, those would be good to be getting on with. And there's also lots of shows on like Netflix, you know, that you could even watch, because then you'll get more of a feel of what it was like for us and our ancestors, you know, where there's so many, as I said, there's so many layers. It's not just about the slavery.
No, let's start talking about the layers, because that was the title of the broadcast, the many layers of racism. So
So it's affected. So the system of racism, it holds power over us from progressing in this society. So whereby it's easier for white people and to progress. It's easier for them to get jobs. You know, sometimes for interviews, if you have a foreign name, like an African name or something, you know, your CV won't get looked at. Mental health, the way they treat us with mental health, it's very different, and more likely to be diagnosed with schizophrenia and things like that, and get sectioned. Again, when the stop and search, a lot of our young black men, they've been stopped and searched so many times, very unnecessarily. Then they're manhandled by the police. Some have been murdered. In the workplace, you don't get much opportunity for promotion. Some black women, if they have their natural hair at work, it's not acceptable. They've been discriminated against. A lot. I find, you know, I worked in the corporate industry and the banking industry, and I found I just had to work twice as hard as the white ladies. Not many of our black people are and most of them are in the caring professions. Most of them work for the government bodies or the NHS or carers. That's where most of us tend to end up. So these are, and even in schools, you know, our boys, they enter schools, and in the infants they're very bright. They do much better than their white counterparts when they enter school. And by the time they leave school, it's a different story. A lot of them are expelled, or they don't do so well. Yet when they entered, they were brainier, brighter than their white counterparts. So the education system messes them up, and I've seen that with my own son, in that, you know, there's very subtle things that go on that knocks out your self-esteem, knocks out your confidence. yeah, it's just more difficult to get. Even I so I've been in business since 2011, and my first book that I published was in 2011, and I've tried to get interviews in the mainstream media, and I've just been given the runaround. And I know that my book, the people that have read it, my book Hungry for Love, um, it's bestseller quality. It's a page turner. So many people have read that book and said they couldn't put that book down, and yet I couldn't get a little interview on, say, GMTV or something like that. And I know, and I feel it, that if I was a white woman, I would have been in. I would have been there. They would have taken me. They would have. Yeah. So these sort of things that we've been putting up with, and some people get very, very overt racism, get attacked on the streets, called names. And as a child growing up, for me, it's not as bad now, but growing up, wasn't nice.
Yeah.
It affects your sense of self on a very deep level. It affects your ability to manifest abundance, because it affects your root chakra, your sense of belonging.
Yeah.
Your sense of belonging.
Yeah. No, and everything you've just described there, is got to end now. and hopefully what is happening is that, there is so much, not even awareness, but a different layer, it's like a whole different light has been shone upon the subject, which is
absolutely.
obviously only a good thing. Now, I know kind of certainly when I was growing up, now I didn't experience kind of racism anywhere near to the extent of what you've just described, but with my mum being Chinese, Thai Chinese, and growing up, I looked a bit different, but and there was kind of like things like being called chinky, little things like, and they were so hurtful at the time, really hurtful growing up, but it was so minor compared to all the things that you've just described. And it's funny, even my son actually, who my son and my daughter look quite different. My son looks more Asian than my daughter does. Even the beginning of the coronavirus, he was getting kind of, and it wasn't proper bullying, because he can stand up for himself, but he was getting people saying to him, oh, coronavirus, and don't sneeze on me, and and it's just horrible, really horrible that there is so many kind of divisions, just ignorance, so much flipping ignorance. But so you've described the many different layers, and how it is kind of like from the moment you're born, and how it affects, even down to your root chakra, managing to manifest abundance, and all these things. Now this big light is shining upon the topic, globally, thank goodness. What would you like to see happen next?
So within our community, there's a lot of people are asking for different things, and it's like, what do you want? And people are saying equality. Well, what does equality look like? What does it really look like? I feel that the world is changing anyway.
Yeah.
And this is something that I really want people to just remember. Firstly, what I want to see is for people to not lose focus, not lose sight of the awakening and what we need to do. So I want to see an end to all the riots and the looting and all that kind of stuff, because that's taking away focus. And yes, we want change. Absolutely, we want change. We want equality. We want to be left alone to just be, and be the magnificent beings that we are.
Love that.
And because I feel, we are feared, and we are the most hated race on the planet, and we are feared. And it's because of our power. So this is what I want. I want Black people to just be still and to embrace that power and to do the healing, And I want white people to also be still and do your healing, so that collectively we can live in some sort of harmony on this planet. And we need to be on a spiritual level now.
Yeah.
Race isn't the biggest problem, because we are all part of those of us that are part of the human race. We all originate from Africa anyway. If we checked out your DNA and checked out a white person's DNA, they've probably got some African blood in there. And probably in a past life they may have been a Black person, and probably in a past life I may have been a white person.
Yeah.
So, we're all in the interconnectedness of humanity.
Oh, goosebumps. Absolutely. Yeah.
There you go. So humanity need to unite against the 1% that aren't of real human origins, but more of the reptilian race. And I might lose people here now. They might be thinking, what's she talking about? I know what I'm talking about. The 1%, they have thrown this into the mix, and they use race as a massive weapon against humanity. So this is why it's really important that we can come together. We can all rise in vibration in our healing, because the 1%, they require us to be in a very negative state. They require us to be so depressed, so fearful, so angry, so vengeful, because that's very negative. The guilt, the shame, the anger, the hurt, the pain, all the stuff that we've been through, abuse, not just Black people, but white people, all kinds of people have been through abuse. They love it. The 1% love it. They love the fact that humanity suffer, and they don't care how we suffer. As long as we suffer, they feed off that negative energy. So it's vital that we all heal our wounds, do our shadow work, have ancestral healing, have soul retreats. Just do the work in no matter what way, shape or form suits you and your soul. Do the healing so that we can raise the vibration on this planet and thwart the 1%.
Yeah.
That's what we all need to focus on.
Yeah, I love it. It's so true. Now, I read a book last year called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. I don't know if it's a book you've come across or not, Yvonne.
No.
Okay, now the book is a little bit controversial, and it talks about how the devil has control. Slightly different statistic from you, and who knows what the devil is. Controls about 98% of humanity through fear. And there's kind of like 2% of people who kind of like are kind of almost have risen above this. And it's like different statistics and different kind of way of looking at things, but it's just like how many people, the coronavirus, it gripped the bloody population of the entire planet in fear. And then it's just like things kind of been happening, and we can go down I know we started to talk about it, we can start to go down conspiracy theorist routes, but let's not go there for the purposes of this episode. But that's a great conversation. I love this stuff. But anyway, but it is now, it's like this whole other thing. And I love what you say that, if we could all unite to rise, I feel like to rise against the devil, which you kind of have to read the book to understand what Napoleon Hill's going on about. But it is like, it's the media, what it's thrown at us, all this stuff, vaccines, should children go to school, face masks, covering ourselves up, blackout Tuesday, what can we black out in the media? Seriously, what is being blacked out? That's what I want to know.
So this is so important. Yes, people love to say conspiracy theorists, but I I'm a conspiracy theorist. I don't business because I'm a critical thinker. I don't believe the government. I don't trust the government. And so I will research, and I will always sit with self and feel into what I'm being fed and see if it's true or not. I don't watch the news
Me
because
neither.
that's just too negative and it's too full of propaganda. Now, we need to. Oh God, I've lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
No, it's my own fault. The fear.
Yeah.
The fear. We need to stop being fearful. And yes, the media are feeding us with so much fear.
Daily.
And this thing about, okay, now when people were kneeling and marching and chanting, I can't breathe. I was like, oh my goodness. That is so negative. Collective chanting of I can't breathe. You're going to bring that on. Law of attraction. You're going to bring that on. Stop it. Blackout Tuesday. What are we blacking out? What are we asking for? When we all collectively do these things, it's like ritual.
Yeah.
We have to be so careful with the words we chant, the words we speak.
Yeah.
And sometimes they set it up. They do these psychological operations on us, and we fall for it, hook, line and sinker. There's only some of us who are more aware of what's really going on, and then we get called conspiracy theorists.
Oh, I am the language police. I watch everyone's words. Anyone who works with me knows me. I will literally jump on you if you say things. You do not say things you don't want to be true, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, I've seen somebody change their Twitter name to I can't breathe and then their name.
Oh my God. Yeah.
We've got it's spells. It's a spelling. It's spells.
Yes, I've said that before. Yeah.
Be
Where
very
do spellings
careful.
come from? Yeah.
Be very, very careful what we call in, and we have to be more positive. Chant I can breathe. Chant that I can breathe, and I will breathe.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of my posts and my tweets and things like that are I try and get people to refocus and be more aware of the underlying things that are going on. When all this stuff kicked off, Hillary Clinton was in court.
Yeah.
Did we know?
It was the same day as Blackout Tuesday, coincidentally.
Exactly. And our queen, well, she's not my queen anyhow, but the queen, she's been abdicated. Do people know this?
We're going down a different rabbit hole here.
Yeah, let's not go down a rabbit hole, but it's so important that we stay focused on awakening, because the energies that are coming in from the spirit realm is helping us to awaken, heal and ascend into the new dimension. And it's going to happen whether people like it or not. And there's going to be a great division, but that's how it's going to be. Because not everybody is going to think like we do.
Yeah.
And some people are going to think we're talking nonsense.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
But I think now is the time for people to speak up, to speak their truth, whatever your truth is. You know, there's been enough kind of fear and, you know, worrying what other people think. There's got to be a lot more open conversations. And yeah, we do have to start speaking our truth. You know, I've probably gone certain places in this interview that I might not have gone before. I might be like, oh, worried what people might think, but you know, I'm actually beyond that now. I've kind of got to the point now. I think there has to be authenticity in everything that's kind of that people, have a platform, have a voice. We have a responsibility, and there needs to be a lot more authenticity now. The veil has been lifted, and we are, a lot more transparency is needed. Vulnerability and things, not feeling the need for things to be perfect and filtered and whatever. I think this is, I feel a turning point, happening for me right now, which is why I've had so much stuff to process in the last couple of weeks. But lots of big changes happening. So I'm really glad that we're having this conversation. So when I look away, I have to to explain to others. When I look away, it looks like I'm disinterested, but I'm kind of trying to keep an eye on the comments as well. So some really great comments. Right. There's some comments and people are sharing here. So let me just go some of them here. I want to add some of these. I can't add them to the broadcast. All the viewers can see all the comments going through, and Yvonne, you can have a look at the comments afterwards. But are there any things, we did kind of do a little tangent there, but I think it's really important segue that we just had, which I think has kind of widened the perspective of this conversation even more, which is what I wanted. But before we kind of go into the healing and the solution, and let's start talking towards the solution, is there anything else you kind of want to add to this?
Yes. I mean, I feel that since the I've always spoken about shadow work, and I've always sort of spoken about it in a very sort of soft and loving way, and and now I'm since the pandemic, plandemic. I feel like my warrior spirit has just kicked in. She really has kicked in, and I do feel, and this time is a time where a lot of us light workers have we've been waiting for this. We've actually been waiting for this to happen, and now it's here. It's like, whoa, we've got to really step up and do the work as spiritual leaders, spiritual healers, etc. We've got to really do it. So my warrior spirit is kicked in, and now I'm, when I talk to people about shadow work and stuff, I feel like saying, do your shadow work. It's really important that we do it, and we try and stop doing the spiritual bypassing. Spiritual bypassing is so common amongst people who profess to be spiritual, and we haven't got time for that. We haven't got time for spiritual bypassing. If you're a spiritual person, a spiritual leader or healer, you have to do your shadow work. How can you lead other people on the path of recovery and healing when you haven't done some basic shadow work yourself? You can't do it.
Can you just, for people who don't understand what it is, can you just explain a little bit about what shadow work is?
Shadow work is looking at your past and healing from your stuff. So if you've got daddy issues, if you've got the mother wound, if you've got resentment, if you've been with a narcissistic partner and you've come out and you're still hurting, if you've had maybe an abortion, or if you've lost children, or if you've been in a dysfunctional home, if you've suffered with addiction, if you're grieving because someone's all of this stuff is part of the shadow work. Yeah, absolutely. We've got to heal that. We've got to heal that. We've got to open our hearts to love. We've got to forgive. We've got to let go. So that raise our vibration, and we're ready to move into this fifth dimension.
Yeah, and we can do this in all aspects of our life as well. I did a coaching call earlier in my membership community about relationships, where how can you expect to move on, attract a loving relationship if you haven't healed the relationships from the past? How can you want to when people talk about diets not working, and because you haven't healed your relationship with food, and it's so many aspects of our life that this shadow stuff, shows up, every aspect of your life. And oh my gosh, I've spent so much time, doing, and actually a book that I recommend for the letting go aspect, again, I was talking about this in my community earlier, David Hawkins, the book is called Letting Go. Amazing, incredible book. Another book I read 3 times last year. If a book resonates and I need to reread it to do the additional healing, to get the additional message, 3 times I need to read a book. So that's a good place to start. Tapping, obviously emotional freedom, healing from the wounds of the past. That's the thing, tapping might not be for everyone. Shamanic work might be for everyone. The journeying process might not be for everyone, but there is going to be a tool or a healing modality that will, help you start doing your research, because there is going to be something for everyone. So good. I'm glad we also, I just put a comment here on the screen. Dawn Rich said it's wake up time. It really is.
Dawn. Hello, Dawn.
It really is wake up. It's wake up. We need to wake up. So that, in a nutshell, that's what shadow is. And I hopefully this brings some awareness to people watching. Obviously, we've gone on a slight tangent here. But in order for us to heal so that we can move forwards, it is looking at every aspect of our lives, and let's all start to do the work, to do the healing, so that we can unite and we can come together. And
ultimately, the more we heal, the more we have space to let love into our hearts and to expand. Love will help us to expand. The more we love ourselves, the more we can love our fellow person. Because at the end of the day, we are a collective consciousness. We are all co-creating what we're seeing happening on this planet. So we're all responsible for each other.
And it ripples out. As I shared in the blog yesterday, if we want to see change in the outer world, it begins with you. Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world. No point going protesting and doing activism work if you haven't, starting, with just, bringing yourself to a place of, inner peace. If you want peace in the outer world, you start that with you. It all begins with you, and then it ripples out.
Absolutely.
So shall we move on to this meditation? Let's all get ourselves into a nice nice space. I think it'd be a lovely place to end. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Yvonne. What are we doing?
Okay, so this is just, I'm just going to channel this and go with the flow with what comes through. So I'd just like everybody to take in a deep breath. Just close your eyes. Just allow yourself to be still in this moment and to connect to your heart center. Just breathing in and breathing out. And as you breathe in, just breathe in relaxation and breathe out any tension. Breathe out all that no longer serves you. Breathe out hate. Breathe in love. Breathe out prejudice. Breathe in acceptance. Breathe out racism. Breathe in love. Breathe in love. Allow your heart to expand and bring in the love. Just feeling more and more relaxed in this space. Just connect with your spirit guide. Feel their presence, see or hear their presence, whatever fits you. And just ask your guide, how can I make this world a better place? And then ask your guide, how do I heal from the wounds of racism? Just listen with your third eye to what it is you need to do on an individual level. Process this information. No arguing with your guide, no ifs or buts or maybes. Make the commitment to do what your guide is guiding you to do. You are part of the collective. It's all about unity consciousness now. The old ways of being, of living, no longer serve humanity. We are heading into a new paradigm, new ways of being. It's time to unite. And it is time to wipe out racism, hatred, prejudice, bigotry. They are a thing of the past. You are ready to heal your wounds. You are ready to rise. You are ready. Make that commitment. Make that promise that you will do what is necessary. Thank your guide. Feel the love. Embrace the love. And just start to become more aware of the room, of the sounds around you. And when you are ready, just come back into the room to full waking consciousness.
Wow. That was great. I got a very strong message that to speak up louder, and there was a little kind of bit of my ego saying, yeah, but people aren't going to like it, because there's that whole like, we want to be liked, we want to be accepted, but it was almost like it's okay. You don't need to be liked by everyone. It doesn't matter. And this has been a block for me in the past, and that came out very loud and clear. Speak louder, keep doing what you're doing, do more of it, but actually even allow the voice to get louder. So I'd love anyone else who took part in the meditation, whether now or if you're watching on replay, please do share in the comments what your message was. What did you, and that's such a powerful question to ask yourself. That was literally my meditation for the last 2 weeks. How can I be of service? What is my next step? How can I help heal? How can I had the same calling that came to me in the middle of March when this whole pandemic, I love it, kicked off. How can I be of service? And I kind of went into action mode on, creating tapping videos and all this. And I've had a bit of a lull these last few weeks just so I could process and heal and do the work that I needed to do. But I feel like this is time for people with a voice, to rise, come together, unite, so that we can all play our part, and there's no too small a part that can be played. It does begin with you. It begins in your home with your families, and it starts now. No more waiting.
No more waiting.
Thank you so much for your time, Yvonne. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Really fascinating, really enlightening. If you joined late, please do go back to the beginning, watch the replay, and perhaps, you might even watch this again just to take it all in. There's a lot of information there, and sometimes you need to kind of listen to this stuff more than once. You heard me say I have to listen to stuff 3 times sometimes for it to sink in. And perhaps there's some concepts here that may be new to you today that you maybe think, what's she going on about? What are they talking about, these 2 women? So just go back, listen, do your research, and let this just be, if this is kind of very new stuff for you, go and investigate more. So Yvonne, where can we find you? Where can we check you out?
Okay, so I'm Yvonne J Douglas, or the Starseed Alkhemist with a K, on social media networks. I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Pinterest, I'm on YouTube. My website is YvonneJDouglas.com.
Great. So could you come back and pop in the links in the comments afterwards, please, Yvonne?
I can. I will do. Absolutely.
That'd be great.
Absolutely. And if anybody wants to kind of have a consultation with me, free consultation, just go to my website, and there's a link there that you can fill in the details, and it will be automatically set up for you. So if anyone wants to have a chat, so and I can highly recommend people begin this journey on the healing and the shadow work. I've certainly been doing a lot of this myself the past 18 months, and over the next weeks and months I'll be sharing some of my own journey, because it's not like I've not wanted to kind of like share as I'm healing. I want to be out the other side, then share. So I've been doing a lot of this work, and it's powerful, and it creates extraordinary shifts in your life, which leads to manifestations happening quicker, magic happening in your life, and all this stuff. If you feel that your life has been blocked in any way, then do this work. It's really, really powerful stuff. Absolutely powerful.
And sorry.
No, absolutely. Do the work. It's
Helene's just posted a link here. Thank you, Helene. YvonneJDouglas.com. And got lots of people. Claire, thanks, Yvonne. Claire Keegan, Debbie, thank you for sharing with us today. So there you go. There's Yvonne's website on the screen.
Thank you, Helene.
And I just want to end quickly by saying that I did share on my blog yesterday that I was supposed to be having, so if you haven't heard, I was supposed to be doing Global Vision Board Day on the 21st of June, but because of my own journey, my own work, I didn't really I wasn't in the space to promote that. So I postponed that for the time being. But what I am doing instead on the 21st is a webinar. It's about manifesting the next chapter of your life. So the details are in this post, but I will be sharing more about that later. So I just wanted to add that in, while people are watching, that Global Vision Board Day has been postponed temporarily, but instead I'm going to be doing a webinar on that day. But the details are in the post here. So thank you again, Yvonne. It's been fabulous. Love talking to you. I could have carried on talking to you all night, but
we've done the hour.
Yeah, we've done the hour. We're bang on the hour. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for watching. And namaste, Yvonne. And I will definitely be speaking to you again soon. Take care, my lovely. And thank you, everyone, for watching.
All right.
Bye for now.
Bye.